Okay, so here's a quick tutorial on how to keep your clay malleable, that is movable. When you receive your clay, it's very bendable and shapeable. In order to keep it in this state, we need to store our clay in a specific way. So we typically put our name on a Ziploc bag, and we store our clay inside of that bag. So when we pop this open, put your clay inside. You can also spray directly into the bag to put moisture in the bag and put in a wet paper towel. Now we don't want it dripping with water, so I've squeezed out the water mostly. We place that inside of the bag as well. And the best way to make this airtight is to close the bag about 2/3 of the way. Then we're going to close out all of the air as best as we can and close the bag the rest of the way. That creates a sort of airtight environment that has moisture inside of the bag as well as our clay to keep that moist and workable. One of the reasons for doing this is when we're building our clay project, we are eventually going to let it dry out completely. This is a piece of dried up clay that you can see it's changed color, but it is no longer bendable or shapeable, and in fact, given pressure, it will crack and break. When we're working with our clay, it is going to dry out a little bit. This clay here is not nearly as light as our dried out clay. However, this clay is already starting to dry somewhat. This clay is also starting to dry somewhat. It's not bendable and shapeable, it breaks. So if your clay is starting to get dried out, we want to add more moisture into this environment. So this is nice malleable clay. If your clay is starting to get very dried out, we need to add more moisture into that environment. So again, the wet paper towel on the inside, and then we're going to add more moisture, spraying into the bag a lot, and then closing up the bag as we did before. About 2/3 of the way, then we're going to close out the air as best as we can, sort of folding it, closing out the air as best as we can, then closing it the rest of the way. Now these strategies are really useful when we start out our project.
Bendable or shapeable, and in fact, given pressure, it will crack and break.